So we are at 1301 PE at 6150 Wilshire in our exhibition, Some Like It Cold.
These street posters are related to Christopher and my common interest in the Colby poster. The Colby poster was an important part of the autoscape of LA.
They punctuated the end of every on-ramp and exit ramp on the freeways, and anywhere east of La Brea, where there are wooden telephone poles in the city, the posters were very familiar.
Colby closed its doors several years ago, so these are actually printed by another company, Tribune. These Colby posters that you would see everywhere carried all kinds of messages, some of them just straightforwardly advertising messages, but then there would also be these politically motivated posters, or simply someone taking out space, like you take out an ad in a newspaper, but now you're doing it in the city space. And then finally, there would be these very ambiguous, oftentimes, posters made by artists, and you couldn't so easily consign them to the space of politics or advertising. Their message would be more sort of challenging.
The title of the exhibition comes from one of Marshall McLuhan's theories or ideas about how media is experienced, and that is compared with this idea of hot media. So there's cold media and hot media.
The original decision to have these 63 posters and to have this particular language on them is entirely based on the book. The medium is the massage as source material. So it's really all the places where the text has somehow been reformatted, rendered bold or italicized or reversed in its values or whatever it is. That was the text that was sent to Tribune. And that's really their own work, right? The gradient silkscreen background, the letterpress typography. We really left all those decisions up to them. And that's where we had the dilemma of what exactly do we do on top of this stuff. Although doing something on top of McLuhan was always was always our ambition.
The space plays an important role in the installation of the work, in that each wall we've planned or thought of as a page from the original Marshall McLuhan text.
One thing that wasn't really planned, but that now is apparent to me, is the height of the ceiling here puts a number of the posters almost out of reach in terms of having an intimate scrutiny of the poster. That, to some extent, replicates this quality of seeing something far away, which is fundamentally how these posters should work. Of course, when you do come up close to them, you find that there's all kinds of interesting facture, facture that we might talk about as almost painterly.
The posters were produced in a technological format that predates Marshall McLuhan's development of a certain critique of media. And so there's a kind of interplay there happening as well between the format that we're using and the format that Marshall McLuhan was talking about.
The title of the book, which was meant to be The Medium is the Message, as a result simply of printing, it turned out to be Massage, and famously he was very excited by this shift. So to somehow get rid of the word message and to talk about media as a process of some sort, massage is actually better. We were trying to also embrace the possibility of things going astray, of various kinds of contingencies.
One of the things that we became very interested in was the typology of the thought bubble, and became very interested in the way in which this could be a format that allows for the imposition of an additional layer of information on a poster. The reference here is from Chris Marker's film La Jetée. The poster reads "of the eye," and it's the final in a series of 4 posters that read "the book is an extension of the eye."
That became an opportunity to think about other forms of extension, and that of course is how we came up with this image of a spider web. One of those webs produced by a spider on acid.
While we didn't benefit from the use of psychedelic drugs in the making of this exhibition, I do really like the idea of the work reaching a space of complexity that maybe begins to take on a tone of lysergic possibilities of meaning, constructing references in a way that we at once referred to almost as promiscuous.
The lysergic element is backed up by the gradient field of the posters. So there was some point when psychedelia actually entered the space of the street poster. McLuhan himself was very fond of punning and cultural references that are thrown off on the fly. So that also is like a method that we decided to follow. Throughout the posters, I would say we're also dealing with media in a somewhat ambivalent fashion. We're certainly not celebrating it quite as much as McLuhan might have done. So a lot of the places where we source media and our current mediated moment, right, it is under a dark cloud.
So the figure of the foot really is used in a way as a kinesthetic index for the viewer to access a kind of energy of the posters. The foot is oftentimes in some sort of state of distress, and it's embodying a kind of pathos.
And this, of course, is also an allusion to the cell phone, which can no longer be characterized as either a hot or a cold medium, because you literally use it to communicate. So you talk into it, it's hot in that way, but it's ostensibly cold because everything, all other media are on it. That's a place, right, where we insert a little critique of McLuhan, like this division of hot and cold media is something that doesn't really bear out.